is how we do it. This is how we do it.
Fantastic. Finally, a chance to test our secret technology for the VO Peeps.
Peepers, answer.
Connected.
Hi Andy, it's Mehmet.
I know, I can see you with the peepers.
No more calls from the bedroom then.
Content filtering is on.
Did the text come through yet?
Sure did. I feel sorry about the sound engineers and technicians though. Peepers will make them all redundant.
Steve Savanyu will find a way to educate them though.
Text received.
Ready to record?
Text displayed.
Sure, I am.
Recording initiated.
Your summer destination, Istanbul, welcomes you. Save.
Send complete. Would you like some wine?
Thanks, peepers.
You have received funds from Mehmet Onur.
Hi, I'm Anganguza, and I'm president and founder of the global online meetup group, the VO Peeps. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a bit more about our awesome and dynamic group. VO Peeps was founded in 2009 as a local meetup group located in Southern California for voiceover artists. Our group mission is dedicated to providing resources and information about the voiceover and related media industries. We not only network with other voiceover artists and industry professionals, but we strive to provide continuing education initiatives that are focused on growing our members' voiceover skills as well as their businesses. Our meetups feature educational segments with leading industry professionals, covering a wide variety of topics relevant to helping members succeed in the business. In the past, we've had wonderful guests such as Dave Fenoy, Richard Horvitz, Mark Cashman, Chuck Duran, and Stacey Oswald, just to name a few. And if you joined us for our last meetup, we hosted an open house extravaganza for VoiceOver Virtual that included guests such as James Allberger and Penny Abshire, Rodney Salisbury, and MJ Lallo. We're always on the lookout for industry experts who are willing to share their valuable knowledge and information with the group. So if you're interested, or you know somebody who might be interested in being a guest speaker, let us know at vopeeps.com. Over the years, our group gained in popularity quickly, and with our online presence at vopeeps.com, we started to attract attention from others from around the globe. Realizing the tremendous potential of the internet and being able to share and disseminate information quickly and efficiently, we decided to break down the traditional barriers of local meetup groups and started to offer our memberships to the online global community. Today, I'm pleased to say that we're the only online global meetup group for voiceover artists, and the only one that streams their meetups and offers their educational content online. We currently have our own Ustream channel and offer live and archived meetups for our global audience participation and sharing of resources. Our tight-knit community is happy to share resources with one another, as well as being a vehicle to provide job referrals. We also get special offers and discounts on voiceover equipment and other valuable resources. Last year, the VO Peeps founded the Career Education Scholarship Fund, a scholarship for voiceover artists by voiceover artists. The fund is a Media Communications Association International sponsored nonprofit fund, and it's dedicated to providing both need and merit-based scholarships to qualified members of the voiceover community. Our mission is to give back within the voiceover community. Each year, a career scholarship will be given to a deserving recipient to help aid in the startup or growth of their voiceover careers. We're extremely grateful to our contributors and our sponsors, and I'm proud to say that since its inception, the fund has given away over $10,000 worth of scholarships to needy individuals, and we thank you so much for your continued support. To find out more information about our scholarships or how you can contribute, or if you're interested in finding out how you can become a global online member of the VO Peeps, and by the way, membership is free to join, please visit our website at vopeeps.com. That's vopeeps.com. Thanks so much for listening, and can't wait to see you at the next meetup.
They're here. You can't run. You can't hide. They come from out of the West, determined to take over the world as we know it. They're the VO Peeps.
This is how we do it.
Welcome everybody. Thanks so much and welcome to our VO Peeps special event with Steve Savanyu from Audio Technica. We're broadcasting live in Irvine, California. We've got a great show tonight. I am so excited. Not only do we have audio engineer guru Steve with us tonight, but we've got some great giveaways, and everybody's a winner. And we'll be testing some great new products. We'll do a mic shootout. For that, on that is on vopeeps.com/donate. So on to the good stuff. Steve Savanyu has over 40 years of professional audio experience in contracting, studio, and broadcast applications. He's the Director of Education for Audio Technica. He has come here all the way from Ohio, and I'm just so grateful and so honored that you would come all this way, and thank you so much. What a valuable resource you are, and you're going to be, everybody that's going to be watching, for our VO Peeps group. So thank you so much, Steve.
Glad to be here.
For
Glad to be here.
A warm welcome for Steve. So I'm so excited, Director of Education for Audio Technica. So I'm excited to learn now.
We're going to learn.
So perhaps we should start at the beginning.
But you know what? Before we do that, you know,
okay.
you always have a theme for these. I notice you've kind of done maybe the rocker theme.
Yes, I have done
I
rocker
see
theme.
that.
Yes, I have.
And if you've seen the promos, she did this really cool little AT fingernail logos on her nails. She nailed it with
I
that.
nailed it. Thank you.
And the little promos that. So we thought
I have Audio Technica eyes too.
Well, yes, Audio Technica. She actually she found the PMS color for the Audio Technica logos.
I did.
And her eye makeup is done in AT color. So we figured, you know, we got to continue this whole AT look. So we got Anne a really cute little I Heart Audio Technica T-shirt with the eye as a little microphone.
Oh my God! Thank you so much. I love it.
And Anne is always, I met Anne this year at CES. We actually had a chance to really sit down and talk a little bit. And she said she's really kind of a blingy kind of girl. She wears lots of bling. And she's got like the bling bracelets and the bling on her skirt and everything. So we felt that let's give her the official Audio Technica bling T-shirt.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh my God, these are awesome. And
you know, and the tech guys really wanted to model them, but we said, no, we'll just let Ann have them.
Thank you so much. And I saw these on the website, too. Yeah. I was like,
and by the way, if anybody's interested, this is a little pitch for our swag product. You can buy these on the Audio Technica website. There's a link to all kinds of cool Audio Technica. I know there's several people brought their AT microphones tonight, which was kind of cool. So if you love Audio Technica as much as I like Audio Technica, there you can buy Audio Technica shirts.
And I've heard that about you, that you love Audio Technica.
I really do. Well, I just like microphones, I guess, is what it's all about.
So 40 years, you've got such a vast amount of experience. How did you get started?
Well, you know, it's funny. I was involved in sound since I was in elementary school, and you know, I think I did my first voice thing when I talked over the microphone at the assembly in elementary school. And I've been just doing that. I've done contracting work, as you said, and it's just been a fascinating part of the world. And I always tell people, the nice thing about being in the microphone business as opposed to being in the loudspeaker business is I can carry all my products in a suitcase. They need a truck trailer. But microphones are a fascinating thing. And the interesting thing about microphones is the technology's changing, but there's microphones that were built in the 30s that are still in use today. And if you take a look back, these are some of the old microphones that were used back in the day. And frankly, I have no idea what that statue is supposed to represent here in our little crooner picture. But if you own any of those microphones in those pictures, there's some pretty good dollars in there. I happen to own the RCA 44B and the RCA 77B, and they're worth about $6 or $7 a piece, and they're still being used in studios today. In fact, my girlfriend is a singer, and her father gave her an RCA 77B ribbon, which she's done her latest vocals on, which I think is really, really kind of cool. Wow. But you know, technology, this is the way it was, and those were great things, but technology has really come a long way. And this is the latest new trend in condenser microphones.
Oh, wow.
This is our boutique product, and it's a milestone in condenser microphone design in that it has 4 small capsules that work together as one large capsule. And it's absolutely an extraordinary microphone for voice work. It is a little pricey. It's about $3,000. It is the microphone, in fact, that is mine that's sitting on the table. It's the mic I use when I do my voiceover work for Audio Technica, and it is an incredible sounding microphone. But it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to have a $3,000 microphone to sound good. And we're going to talk about microphones tonight so that you know what to ask for when you go to buy one, you understand how they work, and why you want to choose the one you want to choose. And that's what's really, really important.
Good, because that's what I want to know. I mean, for everybody that's out there that's just starting out in the industry as a VO artist, like, what do they need to know? Like, what's the starting point? What's the starting point in audio knowledge that we need to have?
Okay, well, let's go all the way back to the beginning. And what is a microphone? Well, believe it or not, a microphone's a transducer. A loudspeaker's a transducer as well. So a loudspeaker converts electrical energy to mechanical energy to acoustical energy. A microphone does just the opposite. It converts acoustic energy to mechanical energy to electrical energy. And in fact, if you've ever gone up to one of the big fast food drive-ins, I won't mention any names in particular, but my favorite's In-N-Out Burger. And you drive up there and the guy says, you know, what do you want? And I'll say, I'll have an animal style. I'll have a 6x8 animal style, right? You're talking to him back through the loudspeaker that he talked to you on. So microphones and loudspeakers can be interchangeable. In fact, when I was a child, I got my first tape recorder with this little microphone, and I plugged it in, and I recorded, and then I went and played back my tape deck, and I plugged the microphone by mistake into the earphone jack on the tape recorder, and lo and behold, sound came out of the microphone. I thought, this is really cool. So I got all my friends over and said, guys, listen to this. The microphone works like a speaker, and I turned it up really loud so they all could hear, and it went, and that was it.
Oh, no.
So microphones and loudspeakers are kind of interchangeable, but yet there are some issues with that. But it's all about sound waves. Everybody knows what sound waves are, right? It is a disturbance of some medium. If I pound on the table like a political candidate, I'm vibrating that table and you're hearing that sound. If I put a doorbell in a bell jar and pump all the air out, you won't hear a thing, which is why there's no voiceovers in space. Yeah. What's really interesting, how many out there use one of the big editing softwares, and you look at a visual representation of your audio signal, the waveform when you're editing. You're looking at a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional thing. So sound waves actually kind of do this when they come out, like that little spring in the bottom of the image picture on the PowerPoint slides. And by the way, I can make this available for anyone that's taking photos of the screenshots. We can make this little PowerPoint available as a PDF handout at the end.
Thank you.
So that's the sound wave. And we look at things like frequency and amplitude and velocity and all that kind of stuff. But what we need to know are a couple of things. Number one is, as the frequency of the sound increases, it becomes more directional. High frequencies are like a spotlight, low frequencies are like a bare light bulb. So I was standing down on the corner of Rodeo Drive and Wilshire Boulevard, and this guy drives up with the coolest car with the biggest stereo known to mankind in all of Southern California. Right? It was like 18-inch speakers in the back. It was louder than could be. And guess what I heard first? The bass. Why? Because that bass frequency goes everywhere, which is why one of the things you want to do when you're building a home studio is try and control bass reflections. That's the biggest issue. That's the biggest thing you run into. The high frequencies, on the other hand, are more directional. And until he got right behind me at the intersection, I then realized he was listening to heavy metal polka. So high frequencies are like a spotlight, low frequencies are like a bare light bulb. But what's really important And there's always Easter eggs in my PowerPoint presentation, and here comes the first one. What's really important from our perspective as voice artists is something called the voice range. The human voice is from approximately 100 hertz to about 6 kilohertz. That's why telephones are designed to respond from 100 hertz to about 6 kilohertz. And it takes 80% of our voice energy to reproduce the low frequencies below 500 hertz. That's why the bass guys in the band are always the really big guys in the band. The presence range is what's most important, and that's between 2,000 and 5,000 hertz. And by the way, hertz refers to what we used to call cycles per second, not car rentals. So the presence range is what gives you intelligibility, and it's really key for speech and dialogue. It's really key for vocal articulation. In fact, it's what makes your voice sounds like it's nearby when you're talking to somebody. So be aware of the presence range. Now, we look at that frequency response in a two-dimensional graph of a three-dimensional thing. It's an output measurement that shows how well a microphone reproduces all of the sounds that it hears, or that it listens to, for lack of better terms. The flatter that curve is, the better it is. The wider that curve is, the better it is. And some microphones, most of the condenser mics that you're probably using, have a little switch that allows you to roll off bottom end. You should, unless you're a really bassy vocalist or a bassy voice guy, you should roll that low frequency off. It's going to minimize if you happen to tap on the table or other things coming up into your microphone. Now, ideally, the flatter that response curve is, the better. However, what we found out is if you take a measurement microphone that's flat as a board for the entire frequency range and do a voiceover on it, you'll probably find that it sounds extremely sterile or non-musical. And what we've discovered is if we tailor the frequency response ever so slightly, we can make the microphone more musical sounding. And that's what people like. That's what we want to hear. So I've got 4 microphones sitting on that table. And those 4 microphones all have a different sonic signature, a different frequency response. They all sound a little bit different. Understanding this a little bit will help you when you go to choose the microphone to match the mic to your voice. What happens is people say, well, gee, I need that really expensive German precision engineered microphone that's out there. And that's not necessarily true. There's some great voice work that's been done on a $99 side address condenser microphone. It all depends. It's fitting the mic to the voice. So microphone manufacturers will tailor the response of the microphone to bring out the presence, to roll off low frequencies, to enhance mid-range frequencies, to enhance high frequencies. And you need to be aware of that. And that's represented by the tailored response curve. And that's what you look at if you look at the specifications of a microphone. Just because the specification says it'll reproduce 20 to 20,000 hertz doesn't necessarily mean it's going to reproduce all those frequencies equally. The other interesting thing with microphones is something called the proximity effect. Now, the proximity effect is a boost in low frequency that occurs as you move closer to the microphone. And there's some folks that use that to their advantage. The classic radio announcer, ladies and gentlemen, coming up next on VO Peeps, it's Steve Savanyu with Audio Technica. They'll utilize that proximity effect to get that big, deep, rich AM radio sound. In some cases, that can be an issue when you're trying to do something that sounds more natural. And that's caused by directional microphones and primarily dynamic type microphones. But any microphone that favors sound from one direction is going to have this proximity effect. And some voice artists will actually work the microphone closer and further away to take advantage of that proximity effect. Now I'll talk about one more thing in the theory of sound, and that's sound pressure level. Sound is pressure, just like pushing down on something. We can measure sound pressure with a dB meter. I have a dB meter application on my phone, and there's a little chart that says the threshold of pain is 140 dB. Loud rock concerts about 110 dB. Average room, quiet auditoriums about 50 dB. Threshold of hearing, 0. All we need to know about that sound pressure level is something called the maximum sound pressure rating in microphones. And this is how loud the microphone, how loud of a signal the microphone can handle before something in the microphone overloads or distorts. And once that happens, there's nothing you can do in post to fix it. So we need to be aware of that. Higher the value is, the louder the microphone can take sound. And dynamic microphones over condenser microphones can typically handle a much higher SPL. In fact, there was a microphone manufacturer back in the 70s that used to fire a starter pistol off next to their microphone and say, yes, our microphone can take the sound of a starter's pistol. But what they didn't tell you was a dynamic microphone, and I can take a $19 dynamic microphone and it'll do the exact same thing. So, a little bit of a sound review. Are you taking questions from like online?
I am.
as we're doing this?
Our global peeps are talking. So
Do we want to answer any questions before I move on? We're done with the science lesson, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving on to the thing I like to talk about, which is microphones.
all right.
So, do you want to interject anything? I'm just kind of plowing away here.
I just had somebody enter. Let me just see.
Okay. We're sitting here entering on the laptop. The technology is amazing.
I
We're
know.
doing this with laptop computers and little small cameras.
I'm talking with Ted McAleer in Spain. Hi, Ted.
Hello, Ted. How are you?
Ted. He said, "We love Steve." I know that Ted had a question about his microphone, and I believe he said he spoke with you.
Yes, we spoke for a long time yesterday, and we'll get into that. We talked about a shotgun microphone, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And by the way, when I travel, I carry this big case of microphones, and sometimes I check them through, and sometimes I carry them on. And I carry a couple of shotgun microphones because there's some VO people that use that. And I got to tell you, if you're going through the TSA line and you're running it through the machine, and the guy says, "What's in the case?" Don't say shotguns.
Oh yeah.
You might miss your flight. So anyway, let's talk about microphones for voice applications. Okay? That's what we're all in the business here doing, is voiceover work. Microphones can be classified several different ways, and you probably have heard of dynamic, condenser or capacitor, and ribbon microphones. You may not have heard of carbon, ceramic, or crystal microphones, but those are what the microphones used to be. Thank goodness you don't see too much of that technology around today anymore. The most common microphone out there is the dynamic microphone. That's the classic mic that the vocalist is going to sing on a live stage. That's the mic you can pound nails with and it's going to still work. That's the microphone that every rock band in the world is going to scream into. That's the mic that you saw on the Get Your Own Mic commercials, right?
That lovely
If you haven't seen the Get Your Own Mic commercials, you'll probably see them on one of the breaks.
Yes, we've got another one coming.
A dynamic microphone works just like a little loudspeaker. It's a motor. It's a diaphragm attached to a coil of wire that moves back and forth over a magnet and generates the electrical signal. Now, dynamic microphones are used by some voice people. A lot of radio people prefer a dynamic microphone because they're not very sensitive. You have to work them fairly close. So you're in a radio studio, you're reading copy. You don't want to pick up all the noises of all the other stuff that's going on around you, the computers, the cart machines, and all that kind of stuff, and so on. So they use the dynamic microphones. Dynamic microphones don't require any power to operate, and yes, they're extremely rugged. You can pound nails with a dynamic microphone. But for most voice actors that are trying to do anything with dynamics in their voice, a dynamic microphone's not the greatest choice. The other microphone that's probably more popular for voice artists are the variable capacitance or electrostatic, or more commonly known as the condenser microphone. All of the ones on the table, except the odd round one, are condenser microphones. Now, a condenser microphone kind of works like a capacitor. We've got a charged plate versus a back plate versus a diaphragm. Both have an electrical charge on them. And what that does is as they move back and forth, they generate a little tiny electrical current. That current has to be boosted by some electronics in the microphone, which is why condenser microphones need something called phantom power, or they work on a battery. And the battery or the phantom power is primarily to run the electronics. Now, you may have heard the terminology true condenser microphone. And some of the old audio purists will say, well, if it's not a true condenser microphone, it's not a good one. Especially those precision German guys. Well, a true condenser microphone, all that says is to electrically charge that metal backplate, they are supplying a voltage from some electronics in the microphone and not a battery. A electret microphone, the backplates are permanently charged by the manufacturer at the factory before they go out, and that charge lasts forever. And our $3,000 boutique microphone is an electret microphone. And there are some benefits to an electret microphone because the signal path and what's needed to be done to charge that backplate eliminates some circuitry in the microphone that will purify the sound a little bit. So the reason condenser microphones have that max SPL rating is that little amplifier in the microphones can overload. And if that amplifier overloads, the microphone distorts. And if you got distorted audio going into your system, it's like garbage in, garbage out. Another thing to be aware about if you're working with condenser microphones in a very humid area. You know, you're doing voiceovers on the beach, and the waves are coming in, and the June gloom is coming in, and it's really foggy. And your microphone starts to sound like it's frying bacon, little hissing and spattering sounds. What that means is moisture has gotten on the electrically charged diaphragms, and it's just kind of shorting out inside. It won't hurt the microphone. Just take the microphone home, like your cell phone, put it in a big Tupperware full of rice, let it sit for a couple days, and it'll take that moisture out. So be careful with a condenser microphone in an extremely humid environment. Now I'm talking about, like Ohio in July out by the lake. That's like where the humidity is 102%. That's what you got to be careful of.
And now, in condenser microphones, is that preferred for voiceover artists?
Condenser microphones are preferred for voiceover artists because they're more sensitive and you can have more dynamic range. Now, one other thing we'll talk about with condenser microphones is you may have heard of tube microphones. Some of you have heard of tube microphones. Clap hands heard of tube mics, right? Tube microphones. Tube microphones use a vacuum tube for that little amplifier inside versus a solid-state microphone that uses a transistorized circuit. Some of the audio purists like a tube microphone because if you do overload the amplifier, a tube will take more overload than a solid-state circuit will. So tube microphones are also more expensive. They require special power supplies and special cables. But for the average voiceover artist, you don't necessarily need a tube microphone. So some guy says, oh, you can't do voiceovers unless you're using a tube condenser. Then he's just kind of giving you a line. Now, I talked to Ted yesterday. We were talking about shotgun microphones versus side address microphones. Most of you probably use a side address studio microphone. You talk into the side of the microphone versus talking into the end of the microphone. All four of the ones on the table are side address microphones. There are some voice actors that prefer a shotgun microphone. And sitting next to you is a side address, and that's the shotgun. So you want to hold the shotgun mic up and do the little Vanna thing.
Wait, where's my...
Now the shotgun microphone is characteristic is that long, thin interference tube is what it's called. The nice thing about a shotgun microphone is you can work the microphone fairly close and you don't necessarily need a pop shield because the actual element of the microphone is way back at the bottom end of that tube. Now what do all those little slots and holes do on the side of the tube? That's what makes the microphone very directional. So if you're using the shotgun microphone and you start to move away from the on-axis point, your level's going to drop off very quickly. And some people will find that they can work the shotgun microphone further away. And because these microphones were really designed for film dialogue work, and they're designed to be put on a boom pole above the actor for film work, it has a nice characteristic vocal sound. So it's a nice dialogue microphone. So the shotgun is a choice that some voice actors will use. You can also work the shotgun microphone 1.5 feet away. So you've got your copy stand here. You don't get reflections coming back off your copy stand into the microphone. So there's some that like a side address, some that like a shotgun microphone. I personally prefer the side address microphone just because of the way I work. So that's just a little sidebar there. Now, one of the things about condenser microphones for voice work is they handle transients really well. All the little subtle nuances of the human voice. All those little tiny little sounds when you're really trying to articulate words. The condenser microphone is going to respond to those so much better. And I brought in, if you look at the PowerPoint slide, the world-renowned Mr. Fish. He plays the triangle for the Philharmonic. And I had Mr. Fish in the studio play the triangle. Ting! And I recorded it, and then I brought it back and played it back through an oscilloscope, which is what the graph shows you. And the best way to define these is a condenser microphone is like a good Italian sports car, right? It's fast off the line, 0 to 60 in 3.2 of a second or whatever it is, and it'll stop on a dime. The dynamic microphone, on the other hand, responds to sound like the cement truck pulling away from the intersection. It's kind of slow to get up to speed, and heaven forbid if something runs out in front of the road like a rabbit or a bunny or something, he's got to slam on the brakes. It's going to take a long time for that thing to stop. So what that does on some vocal situations, especially where there's lots of articulated dialogue, is that will muddy up the dialogue a little bit. So a condenser mic is preferred over a dynamic microphone because it will handle the transients really well. So most of us are using condenser microphones, but we have to throw a wrench into the works. And that wrench is something that was old that is now new again. And that's the ribbon microphone. Remember way back in the beginning when I talked about the early days of microphones and the ribbon microphones? Well, ribbon microphones were really popular in the 30s because they were better than the carbon and the condenser, or the carbon and the crystal and the ceramic mics that were out there. They sounded richer. They were used for talkies. They were used for radio when radio first came out. But the old ribbon microphones were large and heavy and delicate. If you laid them on their side by mistake, the ribbon would sag and the microphone performance would degrade. If somebody went up to the ribbon microphone and blew into it, does it work? Not anymore. You could literally blow the ribbon out. And heaven forbid if you plugged in your RCA 77 or 44 vintage microphone into a circuit with voltage on it, i.e. the phantom power, the ribbon would act like a fuse. Poof, it was gone. Ribbon microphones, though, are regaining popularity because in the analog audio days, every time you did an overdub, and probably most of you never recorded into an analog format. Anybody record into an analog format? Anybody out there in the chat group or the internet record to an analog format? When you recorded to an analog format, reel-to-reel tape was how I cut my teeth. Every time you did an overdub, every time you did a mix down, every time you did a bounce down, you had something called generation loss, which was a decrease in the high frequencies. So what the recordists learned is use a condenser microphone with an extended frequency response and pound that high frequency in really hard in the tracking session so that by the time you got through all the mix downs and overdubs and bounces, it tamed that a little bit. So you maintained your high frequency response. So now we move into the digital world, which is what most of us are recording into today, right? Computer-based recording, digital audio recording. Anybody remember the DAT machine? Yep. Anybody remember the Sony PCM linear digital recording machine with the big reel-to-reel tapes? Well, we recorded, anybody remember the ADAT multi-track machine? Okay, or the DA98 multi-track using little videotapes. Well, we recorded digital signals. And if you did a bounce down or a mix down or any of those things, there was no generation loss. And so people were doing these digital recordings using the recording techniques from the analog days, and all of a sudden the recording sounded harsh and brittle and just really brassy. And people couldn't figure out why. And the reason is the microphones they were using had these extended high frequency responses. And they were tracking like they did in the analog days, and all of a sudden the recording sounded really bright, really brittle. So ribbon microphones, which were really popular in the 30s and 40s, started to make a comeback. And the nice thing about a ribbon microphone, it's got a little bit smoother top end. It doesn't have as extended of a top end, but it still handles all the transients and nuances really well. And a ribbon microphone was the classic Gary Owens mic. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more VO Peeps after these words from our ultimate sponsor at 11:30 tonight. Film at 11, right? That was the classic VO mic, was the big ribbon microphone, because it was rich and warm on the bottom end, but it still had the subtle nuances of the high end. And there are some VO artists today that are starting to go back to using ribbon microphones because the ribbon microphone works so well with modern technology. Now, if you take those old vintage ribbon microphones, you still have all the issues with them. But the newer ribbon microphones are a update on that classic technology. They'll take the abuse. Some of them actually require a voltage to operate. Our ribbon microphone does. You can blow into them and it's not going to destroy them. But most importantly, the output of a traditional ribbon microphone was designed to work with 1950s electronics. And the electronics has changed over the years. What you're plugging into, we went from mixers to sound cards to other types of digital inputs. We went from the technology of the 50s and 60s to what we're using today, and the microphones of the old days don't necessarily match with the inputs required today of our sound equipment today. So consequently, the new ribbon microphones now are designed to work with modern sound interface units, with modern mixing consoles, with computer interfaces. So that's something to be aware of.
Wow.
Ribbon microphone.
So, all the different types of microphones. Perhaps it's a good time to just take a break, and when we come back, we're going to get more into the nitty-gritty of microphones and audio equipment for the VO artist, and coming up, our long-awaited mic shootout. So stay tuned, everybody. We're going to be right back.
Wait, hold on.
We'll be back after these words from our alternate sponsor.
The mountain top, walk on water, I got power, feel so royal. 1 second, I'ma strike for you. Diamond, platinum, no more for you. Got adrenaline, never giving in. Giving up's not an option, gotta get it in. Witness, I got the heart of 20 men. No fear, go to sleep in the lion's den. That flow, that spark, that crown. You're looking at the king of the jungle now. Stronger than ever. Feeling.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Hey, Peeps! Great news! You can help us to really make a difference in someone's life by donating to the VO Peeps Career Education Scholarship Fund, a fund created for voiceover artists by voiceover artists. At VO Peeps, we strongly believe that there is no more valuable investment than education and financial help when it's needed, and the life change it provides. You can make a difference, and together, our voices can build dreams. Your generous support allows us to set bold goals, gifting voiceover professionals and aspiring artists around the globe with educational opportunities and a helping hand. Each year, our fund awards thousands of dollars in scholarships and financial aid to deserving artists, including VIP admission to industry conferences and events, private coaching with top voiceover professionals, audio and technical education, and more. We thank you in advance for your support as we continue to grow and reach out to the community, providing educational access and opportunity. Going forward, the VO Peeps Career Education Scholarship Fund continues to seek funding and in-kind product to help media professionals. For more detailed information about our fund and how you can help, please visit our Career Education Scholarship page at vopeeps.com/donate, or you can contact Ann Ganguza at ann@vopeeps.com.
With their extended response and solid low-frequency definition, the ATH M50X Studio Monitor headphones maintain the critically acclaimed M50 sonic signature, praised by top audio engineers and pro audio reviewers, while adding user-desired features including a detachable cable and improved headband and earpad materials. Proprietary 45mm large aperture drivers with rare earth magnets deliver exceptional clarity throughout an extended frequency range with deep, accurate bass response. The circumaural ear cups contour around the ears for excellent sound isolation and swivel 90 degrees for easy one-ear monitoring. Professional-grade headband and earpad material delivers more reliability and comfort, while the collapsible design enables the headphones to fold into themselves for space-saving portability. The single-side exit detachable cable allows for field cable replacement, and 3 different cables are included. A top choice by audio professionals for tracking and mixing, the ATH M50X headphones are ideal for DJ monitoring and personal listening. ATH M50X. Track, mix, and listen on the go.
Back. Thanks, guys.
You know, I have to say something. I always would say, no applause, just throw money.
I like that. I like that a lot. Hey, what a fabulous voice in that last spot. Did you guys all hear that? I think that was none other than Mr. Steve Savanyu's voice in that. Absolutely. So before we get started back in our lesson here, I have a few comments from the Global Peeps, by the way. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Global Peeps out there.
Global Peeps, we've got Miami represented, we've got Spain, I think we've got LA represented, and in Jersey too. All right. So there's been some discussion here about, a couple of them have 875Rs, and they want to know why those microphones haven't been marketed to the VO community, so to speak, by Audio-Technica.
It's really interesting. You have to understand, we are primarily a manufacturer that focuses on the studio and live sound industry. So think the music industry. That's where our roots are. And we think we have that stereotype, well, a voiceover microphone is going to be a big side address condenser. And we never think about the fact that the 875R, which is actually a short shotgun, works really well for voiceover. But on the marketing side of things, we don't specifically market it that way for voiceover work. But that's something I'm going to take back. Another one that works really well, if anybody hears a dialogue recordist for film and video as a sideline, is the 4051. It's actually marketed as a small diaphragm condenser for instrument use. But it's an exceptional microphone for interior shots on a boom bowl.
Yeah, everybody's saying how happy they are.
And the same with the 875R. It's a great VO microphone. It's not super expensive. It's got a great sound to it. You can work it a little bit further away. And for those that like to use a shotgun microphone, it's a great choice.
Well, especially because so many in the community, like there's another microphone out there, that shotgun mic that they all love and use. But this is a great
alternative to that precision German manufactured thing.
Exactly. And also, I should mention that on our online chat group, they're talking about how 10 friends of theirs bought, Ted McAleer says 10 friends of his bought an AT after he did.
That's great.
So he wants
Ted.
to join your marketing team.
Absolutely. Well, the key thing is, as we get more involved in Audio-Technica and social media, and this is one of the reasons we're out here is doing this, is social media is becoming so strong. We can do some grassroots marketing. I can go back in and put together a mic representation for voice actors after finding out what voice actors use. And sometimes I have to admit, I'm part of that same. I'm a victim of that same situation. I use a side address. I use a 5040 side address mic. I never think to use a shotgun for VO because I've just always used a side address mic. So sometimes you have these little blinders on.
Well, that kind of leads us into perhaps the next topic, because we talked about how microphones make sound.
Yep.
What about now how they pick up sound?
Exactly. And this is what we're talking about now with the shotgun mics versus the side address. And basically, microphones respond to sound coming at them from different directions in different ways. Omnidirectional means response from all sounds equally. I'm wearing a little lavalier microphone right now. If I turn it upside down, it will not make any difference in the sound. A directional microphone prefers a specific direction and rejects sounds from the other directions. The favored direction is called the on axis, and the rest of the other directions are called the off axis. And we can use that to our ability in voice work. Now we represent that in the microphone world. Again, we're talking three-dimensional things on two-dimensional PowerPoint slides because we represent these in graphical representations with something called the polar pattern. Most people want to use a directional microphone in their studio. It's going to favor sound coming at the front of the microphone. It's going to reject sound from the sides and the rear of the microphone, especially if you've got the mic in front of you and you've got a copy stand there that's reflective. You've got a piece of paper that's copy and your voice is going to reflect off that paper. If the back of the microphone can pick sound up, it's going to pick up those reflections. And as subtle as they sound, that can affect the sound. So the polar pattern types start from omnidirectional, they go to cardioid, and they start to narrow down till the narrowest is the line gradient, which is the official term for what we call a shotgun and what the boys across the pond call a rifle microphone. So if you're in the UK or parts of Europe, you'll refer to a shotgun mic as a rifle microphone. And it's because it's got a pickup pattern that's like a rifle. It's very long and very narrow. The benefit of the shotgun microphone for voice work is we talked about it's tailored for dialogue, so it's more tailored for the human voice. And because it's more directional, it's less susceptible to pick up sound from the sides and the rear. You can work the microphone further away. And if you do get up close on the microphone, it's not going to pee-pop. And we all know what pee-pops are, right? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Have you seen the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Anybody can do that 5 times fast. So we use directionality in microphones to our advantage. Now, there are some microphones that you can select different polar patterns. And in studio applications, that's a very favorable thing, maybe not as much in the voiceover world. Now, let's talk about this directionality and something I like to call the angles. And understanding the angles can help us do better work. The acceptance angle is the angle of acceptance that the manufacturer says the microphone is designed to pick up sound. Anything outside the angle of acceptance, the level is going to drop off until you reach the null point. And the null point is the point of the microphone that's the least susceptible to picking up sound. So in a directional or a cardioid microphone, the back of the microphone is the null point. So I want to put the null point away from things I don't want to pick up. Now, a good microphone is going to have a smooth off-axis response so that the level of all frequencies drops off equally as you move off-axis. Some of the lesser expensive microphones that are out there, that's not necessarily true, and there may be 1 or 2 frequencies that microphone's sensitive to off-axis that can be an issue. So the better the microphone is, the better the off-axis response is. Now, a little story. Anybody here deal with rap music in their lives? Right? All microphones are born omnidirectional, and the manufacturers do all kinds of magic to them to make them directional. It's all acoustic porting techniques and things of that nature. So if you take the head case off of a directional microphone, you'll see all these little openings on the side. The best example is if you hold the shotgun microphone up. All of these little things on the side, these little openings here, are ports that allow sound to get to the back of the microphone capsule. And because it's all timing and physics, the sound hitting the back of the capsule is slightly delayed from the sound hitting the front of the capsule, so it's out of phase and it cancels out, which is why at the back of this microphone it doesn't pick anything up, but at the front of the microphone it's extremely sensitive. So now you've got a rap artist that cups the microphone like so and covers up all these magic little ports, and all of a sudden he takes a really good directional microphone and makes it a really awful omnidirectional microphone, and the sound system feeds back and everybody looks at the sound guy because it's never the artist's fault. The most common mic that we use in our world is the cardioid microphone. It's a heart-shaped pickup pattern, thus the name cardioid. It's going to pick up from the front of the microphone. It's going to reject at 180 degrees off that front axis. Now, how many do multiple voices together? If you're doing like a husband-wife thing, or maybe 2 people doing a read together and you want to share a microphone. Right. And there's some actors that'll do that, maybe books on tape where they're doing multiple characters, or maybe even like podcasts and maybe even talk radio type things. by utilizing the pattern of a directional microphone, you can now start to blend the voices just by where you have them located around the microphone. So you put the stronger voice slightly off axis and let the softer or weaker voice strike more on axis, and now you get a more balanced blend without having to do mixing. I do a lot of two shots in video work that way, where I put the strong voice off axis and I actually blend it with the boom mic. And I've seen it done with voice actors where they're trying to do like two characters working together and the characters want to interact. So they want to work the same microphone. It's like radio drama in the old days. And then you would step in for your key part, and then to get distance in the voice, to make, especially if you're doing books on tape and you want to move the voice away, you just move slightly off axis from the microphone. It'll make it sound like you're moving away from the microphone. So take advantage of that pattern. More off axis, the more distant you're going to sound versus on axis. Now, the last thing I want to talk about on microphones themselves is this neat little trick. On all of the condenser microphones, I should have most of the condenser microphones, there's a little switch called low cut filter. And what the low cut filter switch does is it basically reduces the amount of low frequencies that that microphone is going to pick up. Face it, most of us can't reproduce much frequency below 100 hertz. And in fact, as we get older, our hearing gets worse, and most of us probably can't hear much over 12 or 14K. So why do I need a microphone that goes all the way out to 22,000 hertz? Because I want to pick up some of the subtle nuances. And maybe some people can hear that. But on the low end side, do I really need to pick up 60 hertz, 50 hertz? That's all the mechanical noise. Maybe rumblings coming up the mic stand, maybe noise from heating systems and stuff in the studio, air handling, air movement, and so forth, because there's always air movement everywhere we are. So engage that roll-off switch or low-cut switch. You may also have it in your sound card. You may also have it in your mixer. As a worst case, you can engage a low-cut filter in your editing software. And roll off some of that subharmonic low. You don't need it. It'll just muddy up your dialogue. Now, let's talk about plugging your microphone into your device. The unbalanced line is what a guitar player uses. The classic 1/4-inch phone plug. Microphones use a balanced line. The XLR connector is what everybody's familiar with. It's a 3-pin connector that plugs into the microphone and plugs into our mixers, plugs into our sound cards, into our audio interfaces. That gives us a balanced audio line. And the benefits of the balanced audio line is, if I run my balanced audio near power cords and power lines in my studio, I'm not going to get induced hum and noise into my audio lines. So we use the 3-pin XLR connector. So here goes Steve's trivia for the night. What does XLR mean? And this is a 6-point bonus question on my midterm. And XLR means, and you want to know this in case you're over at Venice Beach, and you're walking down the boardwalk and some dude skates up on a skateboard and says, "Hey man, what's XLR mean?" And you can tell him X stands for the X series made by the Canon Connector Company. L stands for the little locking button on the connector, and R stands for resilient or rubber, which is the little insert inside the connector. So that's what XLR stands for. So now you guys all know. If you ever take my class at Kent State University, the midterm bonus question, 6 points by the way, is what does XLR mean? Now, the other benefit of this 3-pin connection that we use is we can run a voltage down the microphone cable to power the electronics in the microphone. Now, the cool thing about this voltage is it comes from the mixer, it comes from the sound card, and if I use a dynamic microphone, it won't affect it. And the voltage is called phantom power. It's very low current, so if you were to touch bare wires with phantom power on it, it won't harm you, but it supplies the voltage to operate the electronics. 2 things about phantom power. If you are wearing headphones and you unplug a microphone that has phantom power on it, you will know, because you'll get a very large noise in your headphones. Okay? So be aware of that. And you also don't want to turn phantom power on or off if you've got live channels open. So we have speakers in the room. We don't want to turn phantom power off to the microphones because it will make a very loud and expensive noise. Now, phantom power is 48 volts DC. It can come from a phantom power supply. It can come from the mixer in our case. It can come from your audio interface. It's that little button that says P48. Now I have to tell you, and you want to go to the PowerPoint slide for this one. I was down in the fashion district the other day in LA, and this guy was selling these. He said, this is the smoking hot microphone power adapter, makes cheap microphones sound more expensive and expensive microphones sound hot. No way. Run as far as you can the opposite direction, because my good friend here said, gee, my expensive German mic worked great right before I plugged it in. Oh! So let's talk about some microphones for voiceover work. And I'm going to talk about the Audio-Technica line because that's the company that I work for. There are other good microphones out there. What's important to know is although most of these microphones look very similar, they sound a little bit different. Microphones are like paint chips. And because they're like paint chips, you want to find the microphone that works best with your voice. It's like a guitar player. He wants to find a guitar that's easy to play, that sounds good for the type of music he's playing, that's comfortable to hold, and so forth. As a voice artist, your microphone's your instrument. And if you find a microphone that you are really happy with, buy that microphone, carry it with you when you go into a studio. And if you were to bring your microphone into my studio and say, this is the mic I want to use, I would use that microphone. A lot of voice actors walk into the studio and they just use whatever's there because it must be good because the studio has it. And that's okay if that's the type of mic you want. But if you're really happy with the sound you're getting out of your microphone, use it. I use some really high-end vocal mics in my live sound work. And I had an artist that came in one day that had one of the least expensive mics that Audio-Technica made. But that artist knew how to work that microphone, knew how to get the sound of their voice out of that microphone, so we used their $39 microphone. Now, here's a good example. Here are our ribbon microphone and our 5040 condenser microphone. If you look at that frequency response curve, notice how the low end on the ribbon mic is boosted. That gives the ribbon microphone a really rich low end. So if you have a thinner sounding voice and you want a little bit more bottom end in your voice, the ribbon microphone would be a great choice for you. In my situation, I have a fairly deep voice, and I used the ribbon microphone, and it was just too deep. On the other hand, look at the response curve on the 5040 condenser microphone. It's fairly flat in the low end range, and there's a slight presence peak, and then followed by a slight dip behind the presence peak. And that's because that microphone was designed for vocals, which makes it a great microphone choice for the voice actor. Now I'm going to skip the next one, and I'm going to go to what I call the palette of colors. Here are 5 microphones that look identical. They look identical, and if you look at their little frequency response curves, you'll see that every one of them is different. And I use the milk analogy. The first one is the Audio-Technica 4040. That's skim milk. It's kind of thin and wispy in the high end and kind of smooth, but not a whole lot of body in the low end. So if I'm a deep-voiced voice actor, that's a great choice for me, especially if I want a little bit of that airiness in sound. And by the way, sound is the most difficult thing to describe, right? I can tell you that I'm wearing a black shirt. I can tell you that Ann has a white blouse on. I can tell you that this is a beige pillow and that the Audio-Technica banner is a teal blue on white. But try to define sound. Sound is difficult to describe. So the audio industry has come up with some really interesting terminology. You'll hear muddy, tubby, boomy, bassy, brassy, airy, shrill. We have to come up with words to try and define sound. Now, if you look down that list, the next microphone was one of the most popular side address microphones Audio-Technica made, 4033, and there's studio engineers all over the country that swear by this microphone for vocals because it has a nice little dip right before the presence peak, a bump at the presence range, that 2 to 5K, followed by a slight roll off at the top end to make the voice stand out. Most of the shotgun microphones that we use have a similar response curve that makes the dialogue, makes the voice, makes the articulation stand out. So if you're the average voice, not too bassy, not too shrill, that's going to make your voice stand out over other things. Maybe the sound effects in the mix, maybe the music in a spot, maybe other things in the mix. How many are doing commercials where they're mixing their own stuff with a background track? They're doing their own fully produced process. In those cases, you want to think about where things fit in the mix. And you want to carve out holes for where things fit. So you want that voice to fit in that background music track So you take away some of the mid-range of the background music track to make room for the voice, because only one thing can occupy one space at one time. Now we move down to the next microphone and look at the bottom end rise on that. That's got a pretty big rise on the bottom end, not as much as the ribbon mic. So the second mic, that's 2%. The third mic down, that's the 4047, that is buttermilk. Rich and creamy on the bottom end, but still smooth and luscious at the top end. The 4033, that is 2%. It's got a little bit more bottom end to it, a little bit fuller, but it's kind of nice and kind of fulfilling at the mid part of it. The 4050, that's pretty smooth all the way across. That's whole milk. And finally, the 4060, which is our tube microphone, that is cream. Half and half. And the ribbon microphone that we talked about a little bit earlier, that is buttermilk. So using that analogy, that's the best way to describe these. A couple other ones I'll throw at you. These are a couple of mics that I use for dialogue work in the film world. Notice the presence peak on them, and then look at the shotgun microphone down at the bottom. Notice it's got that little bump in it that's right where the voice range is the most critical. And finally, there's a dynamic microphone in the mix on this group, and that dynamic microphone, although it's designed for kick drums, there are some voice artists that use it because they want the low frequency response. They want to be able to work it really close because it's a dynamic, and they still want a little bit of articulation. If you notice, there's a little bump right in the voice range. So then our 20 series, same thing. Pretty much flat with a little top end to it, kind of designed for the vocal mics. So we've talked about traditional microphones, right? We've talked about traditional microphones. How many out there are using USB microphones?
Yeah.
Let's talk about USB microphones for a minute. How are we doing on time? Are we doing good?
We're doing good.
Great. So,
Advantages and disadvantages
advantage
of the
USB microphones. You know, USB microphones are extremely popular with the traveling voice artist, right? You've got a studio in your house, you've got a nice sound card, you've got a nice computer system, but you know, unlike a job where you're working 9 to 5 every day and you get 2 weeks vacation in the summer, think about it. You don't get a vacation. Because if that client calls you and you're on your trip to the Malibu, and you're on the beach, and he says, I need this read by tomorrow morning, what are you going to do? Well, you know, luckily if you're in LA, you can call somebody in Hollywood and say, hey, I need a studio for an hour to do this read. But if you're out in Hawaii, and you're on the beach there, and the guy calls and says, I need it by tomorrow morning, what do? There are a lot of voice actors that travel with a laptop computer or an iPad and a USB microphone. And what do they do for a voice booth? You can make a great voice booth in a hotel room, especially if it's got nice, cushy furniture. And I've seen voice artists take all the pillows off the guest couch and build a little thing to do their voice work in. There's also some folks that actually travel little portable voiceover booths that they carry for those things. But I've seen some really great homemade voice booths to allow you you got to get that read in. The nice thing about the USB microphone is it plugs directly into a computer, or it'll plug into an iPad with the Apple Camera Connector Kit. And the Camera Connector Kit basically allows a USB device to plug into the funny little connector on an iPad, either the 37-pin or the new Fire Lightning or whatever they call the new Apple connector. The USB microphone doesn't require any special software or drivers. It just works. And there's 2 flavors of the USB microphone. There's the one that we're giving away tonight, the 2020 USB Plus, and that microphone has a headphone output in it, as well as the USB output. So you can actually monitor either off the computer or you can monitor directly off the microphone. Now let's talk about monitoring. Some people like to wear headphones when they read or when they're doing voice work. I personally don't, because one of the issues you run into if you're doing monitoring headphones off of the digital output of the computer, there is some latency or delay. And latency is what happens anytime you go through an analog to digital conversion or a digital to analog conversion process. It takes time to do that. And even the fastest computer, or the fastest MacBook out there, is still going to have some latency because it still takes a millisecond of time to convert that audio to the digital format and then reconvert it back to the analog format. So I don't necessarily recommend headphones for monitoring. If you do need to have headphones for monitoring for whatever reasons, you want to monitor directly off the microphone. And the 2020 USB Plus allows you to monitor the audio directly from the microphone. Now the nice thing about this is it works with any audio recording software out there, whether it's Twisted Wave on the Mac, whether it's Pro Tools if you want to go to the full audio editing, music production program, Studio One, PreSonus, Apple Logic, even Audacity, the freeware version that's out there. There's no drivers required. It plugs in. It's a universal audio device. So the Mac sees it, the Windows PC sees it directly, the iPad sees it. It'll work with GarageBand. It'll work with any of the audio software that's out there. Makes it really convenient for the traveling VO person. Makes it really convenient for someone that's just getting started in voiceover work and they don't want to, do I really want to do this, or do I want to raise the pets out back? You can get into voiceover work fairly inexpensively if you've got a computer and a USB microphone to see if it's something you really want to do. Or the podcaster that's doing, we're doing crochet. We're going to do a podcast. They don't know a whole lot about audio. They're not like us that are trained audio professionals or trained professional VO artists, but they want to do a podcast on crocheting or flower planting or whatever those things may be. A USB microphone is a real simple way to get in to do that. Now the basic 2020 USB microphone, that doesn't have the headphone output on it. If you don't need headphone monitoring directly off the microphone, the 2020 USB is a great choice. And I brought my 2020 USB as well. That is a 2050. That's something different. They all look the same.
I'm getting questions from the chat room about what microphone.
Oh, okay, that's a multi-pattern version of the 20 series. By the way, the 20 series is the largest. 2020 is the largest selling side address condenser microphone in the world. So that's kind of the microphone offerings. So now we've talked about sound. We've talked about microphones. Let's talk about what we do as the voice actor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about we're in the studio. Technique. First thing I want to talk about is care and feeding your microphone. Think about this. In your craft, your microphone is your instrument. And it is a precision instrument. Although I can pound nails with most of these, it is your moneymaker. You want to handle it with care. You want to take good care of it. I mean, I've dropped all of those microphones, believe it or not, including the 5040. I almost panicked when it fell, but it'll take a hit. Keep it covered when it's not in use, just to keep the dust out of it. Protect it from dust, cat hair, anything that might be out there. I heard the cat meow.
There you go.
Store your microphone in a cool, dry place if you're not using it. Keep it out of direct sunlight if you're not using it. It's all those kind of things. Second thing is, you've got to connect your microphone. Yes, Kitty. You've got to connect your microphone to your interface, whether it be a computer interface or your mixer. Don't skimp on the mic cable. Get a high-quality studio microphone cable. The last thing you want is a low, the $9 microphone from the Music Emporium down the street, the $9 mic cable. It's just, if you're going to spend a few $100s on a microphone, spend $30 on a good mic cable. The problem that you run into is the low-cost mic cables, the connectors start to go bad quicker. Gunky microphones. This does happen over time. Breath moisture, humidity, dust getting into the microphone, the crud. And you saw the crud if you saw those Get Your Own Mic commercials. It does happen. Audio-Technica, if you buy a studio microphone from Audio-Technica, our 40 series microphones, we curve every one of them as they come into the factory. If you have a 40 series studio microphone or a 50 series studio microphone and you've had it for a few years and you've used it day in and day out and it's not the best environment to use it in, and you feel your microphone just doesn't sound as good as it did when you bought it, you can send your microphone back to Audio-Technica. We can look at the microphone, recurve it, and we can go back and clean it up. And we offer that as a service through our service department. We can recondition, as they say, to like new, and we can go back and compare it to the original curve.
You said, I was going to say you recurve. Is that reconditioning?
Well, what they'll do is they'll take it apart, they'll clean the head case, they'll check the capsule, make sure nothing's bent or misaligned. They'll go through, they'll check the electronics, because sometimes over time the electronics with heat and stuff, things can drift a little bit in components. And they'll basically bring that microphone back up to spec.
That's great.
So that's a service that we offer through our service department. Again, it's a precision instrument for you. So, let's talk about the recording environment for a minute, all right? Every studio's got to have a lava lamp. That's how you know you're in a real recording studio. You got to have a lava lamp. There's a lot of people that are out there in the voice world that have a studio, have a booth in their facility, in their house. You don't have, if you're just getting started, you don't have to do that. Listen to your surroundings. A quiet place will work. A clothes closet full of clothes is a great way to start as a voice booth. Whisper room or sound booth. Anne's got a really awesome sound booth in her back room. There are voice artists that are traveling on vacation. They need to record a quick voiceover. In your car is a great place to record. Think about it. Auto manufacturers go to great depths to make the interior of the car keep all that outside noise out. It makes a great, great place to do a voiceover. Minimize reflections. Watch for parallel surfaces. And one of the things that people don't think about is your voice is going to reflect back off that copy stand. I cover the copy stand with something soft. I work the mic a little off axis, so I kind of read the copy a little off axis, so I'm not getting that direct reflection back off. Watch noise from computers, especially big desktop computers. Laptops aren't as bad. iPads don't make any noise at all, but computer noise. One of the problems that we have as humans is we're a visual society. We notice all the little visual things, right? I notice there's Christmas lights in all the trees. I notice there's a clock that's ticking over there. But we don't pay attention to audio. So sound, we just kind of tune things out because we hear those sounds every day. We hear those sounds every day. So we just kind of, our brains will ignore those sounds. Unfortunately, the microphone is a stupid thing. And it doesn't ignore those sounds. Anybody know what the two best microphones in the world are?
Tell us.
The two best microphones in the world are this one and this one. They're the only two microphones that can discriminate sound, right? Can tune things out. Best example is you're at a little gathering and you're talking to the most boringest person in the world, the guy from the microphone competitor. But right next to you is a couple carrying on a really juicy conversation about the other microphone competitor. And this guy's going blah, 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 and these guys are going like, well, you can, with these microphones, tune this guy out and listen to this conversation. But if I were to place any one of these microphones in this room, including the $3,000 one there, and record it and play it back, I have no way to discriminate sound. These are the only two microphones that can, because they're hooked up to a really powerful computer. So what happens is over time, we become numb to sounds that are in the background, right? So I'm going to be quiet for a second and just listen. And there are noises in the room today. There's air handling running. The cat was meowing. The clock was ticking. And until how many noticed the air handling was running until I mentioned it? A couple people did in the front row. Good. Because we are audio people and we listen for those things. It's real easy to forget about some of those sounds in our environment, which is why the ideal thing is to have a good quiet voice booth. But if we can't do that, this is one way, just to be aware of those sounds and try to minimize them. Portable voice booth, foam board and acoustic foam, Orlex works. There's a whole bunch of guys out on the internet that come up with all kinds of really cool ways to make a little voice booth. A nice place, a closet works really well. Have a soft surface behind you as well. Because what happens is your voice reflects off the copy stand, goes beyond you and hits those glass windows behind you because you wanted a sunny day in your voice booth, and then reflects right back into your microphone. And that's timed, and all of a sudden it's a little delayed audio. You may not hear it as an echo, but it might muddy up your sound a little bit. Okay? Here we go, dynamic or condenser microphones. Condenser microphones typically are more sensitive and will get a better high frequency response. You can work a condenser mic a little bit further away. However, if you're doing like screaming, Sunday, 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 Mid-American Drag Raceway, nitro-powered Hemi cars, right? You might not want a condenser microphone because you want something you can get really loud on. Dynamic microphones are less susceptible to being overloaded. That's why a lot of radio guys, especially those guys who are doing the screaming sports talk shows, are going to work a dynamic microphone. And you can add more low end to that proximity effect. Take that to your advantage. Use a good pop filter. One, it keeps all that moisture from your breath out of the microphone. Two, it gives you a good working distance so you're consistent. Helps keep you a consistent distance to the microphone. The other thing you want to do is you want to invest in a high quality shock mount. And the shock mount is going to minimize mechanical vibrations coming up from the mic stand and other things in the space. You know, you're recording in your house and somebody walks across the floor and you hear a thump, thump, thump. The mic stand can pick that up and transmit that to the microphones. So a good shock mount is going to help minimize that. It's also going to help minimize any kind of other mechanical noise as well. Cardioid's the most common microphone for voice work. It can exhibit the proximity effect. It can also color the sound a little bit if the person moves off axis. We talked about the low pass filter. Now, where do you put the microphone? The best place to put the microphone, believe it or not, is up here, slightly above and in front of you. Why? Because your voice travels. Your voice travels up your head. When I do theater, I put the microphones in the actor's hair right here. It's really tough doing Yul Brynner in a Broadway show. But this is because your voice travels. A lot of singers and vocalists will do this. Try it, because your voice will travel up and along your face and along your head. So putting the microphone up here, one, keeps that out of the way of the copy stand, and two, it's going to pick up your sound going. That's why vocalists prefer it above. It allows you to see the script. What about headphones? I don't prefer to use headphones when I'm doing voice work unless I have to listen to something for timing. I don't want to hear myself in headphones. If you do use headphones, choose a good closed back headphones. Like an Audio-Technica M50 is what I have here in my hand. You want to be able to seal that headphone because that microphone, if you're using open back headphones, sound's going to come out of the back of the headphones and your microphone's going to pick it up. So you want to keep that sound leakage out of the microphone. And there's some people that say, well, I want to use one headphone like this, and they do this. And the problem with them doing that is sound's coming out of this earpiece. Because they don't want to hear, they want to keep one ear open, and that sound's going to get into the recording. Now, this is a dumb thing, but I have to talk about it. Dress code. Anything that you wear that's loose and jingly is a potential noisemaker. So, you walk in the booth and you've got an artist that comes into your studio and they've got all this really cool bling on. Jewelry, belt buckles, buttons. You walk up and you've got a little table that you've got copy on. You've got one of those big Texas belt buckles and clank. Anything can make noise. And that all can make noise. So,
Or those parachute pants.
Yes, those parachute pants. Yeah, from the 80s will do it too.
That you wear.
Maybe the best thing to do is record naked, but I won't go there.
The home studio.
The home studio, yes.
There you go.
Be aware of environmental sounds. Make certain the room's quiet. Be aware of noises that we tune out. Computer noise is a really good one. Road noise is a really good one. Because you just tune out the traffic going down the street. Now we're tracking. Watch those levels. You want to record with sufficient headroom in your audio, but you don't want to overload. If it goes into the red and digital, it makes a really nasty sound on the track. And you can't fix it. You can't fix it. In the analog days, hitting the red was okay because the analog system naturally compressed it a little bit. And you can't fix it in the digital world. And last but not least, let those creative juices flow. Become the character. Do the part if you're doing books on tape. Really get into it. Have fun with it. That's the way I look at it. A little bit of track thing. This is kind of getting off the microphone topic, but I'm a studio guy. So
actually, I think it's probably a good time right now to take another break.
I think a break would be good.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about recording and editing and headphones too. I think we have a little more to talk about the headphones, and we'll do our live Q&A and our drawing for these wonderful prizes. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
How's everybody doing tonight?
talking with Steve Savanyu from Audio Technica. Hey, that was a great tour of the facilities
You like
there.
that?
Oh my God, that was a great video.
I got to say, I get the honor of producing that video.
Oh my gosh.
And we literally, the whole office participated, the whole company in the U.S.
Fun.
And we did it in one take. And we trashed the office doing it. It was so much. So what'd you do at work today? Well, we made a video and trashed the office. So we had a lot of fun. Everybody participated, from management, president, all the way down to the warehouse
That was
people.
great. We got to see what the office looks like. I love that.
It's not like that every day at Audio Technica, but we had a fun time.
that day it was.
That day it was a lot of fun.
So,
a lot of fun.
So we've talked about microphones.
Mm-hmm.
We've set them up in our studio, and we're set to record. So can you give us some tips and tricks?
Sure. I'll step out of my role as the microphone guy and into my role as the studio guy. We talked about everything from what to wear, so you don't have jingly jangly stuff. So now let's talk about laying down our tracks. The nice thing with digital recording is we can comp, we can redo. It's easy to do compared to the analog days when I was doing reel-to-reel tape and things. But it's important that when you're in a session, you want to label everything. Track labels, take labels. Do it right from the start. Get a labeling convention, how you label the projects, because once you get involved and you start getting more and more stuff on your computer and your hard drives, it's real easy to get lost on things. Record every single take. Hard drive space is really inexpensive compared to 2-inch analog tape, because that practice run through that you did just might be the keeper. The pristine one. And I've had several situations where someone's come into a studio and they've recorded this great rehearsal and they didn't roll. Oh, roll tape every time. Always save. Use autosave if the program allows for it. Save often, save often, save often. It only takes a second to save. And once it's gone, it's gone. Most importantly, a lot of the software out there, a lot of the interfaces out there allow you to do virtual pre-processing, equalization, and things. I use a voice channel made by Aphex in my studio, and I have some fundamental settings that I use that basically help match my microphone to the system, but I don't process my tracks before recording, process afterwards. I do use a little bit of compression on my recording, on my mic going in, but I don't heavily process. I don't put any reverb or echo on anything. I don't put any equalization on anything. I do that in post if I need to add any of that stuff. And that's probably more for the music recordists than the voice actors, but it's just good studio technique. Most important thing is to build a good gain structure through your whole recording process. Now, if you're using a USB microphone, the gain structure is set in the computer. If you're using something else, you may have level controls at different points in the process. Maybe an input level on an interface, maybe an input level in the recording software. So you want to make certain that gain structure is set properly throughout the process. You want to leave a little bit of headroom in your recording. Original digital recordings were recorded at -18. That was the recording standard. And now hip-hop albums are pushing it up to -4, -2 even. And they're compressing the daylights out of it. They're trying to get maximum signal. In the analog days, we tried to get maximum signal on the tape, even to the point of saturating the tape. We don't want to do that in the digital world. Tape saturation was a good thing. The harder you hit the tape, the better it will sound. In the digital world, if you hit the red, it's going to sound nasty. If you don't believe me, some might just sit in your studio and try at different levels, and you'll get a real good feeling of what that sounds like. Recording hotter doesn't do anything in the digital world. Use the trim controls on the interface. I have a little interface that's sitting on the floor because my purple wire wasn't long enough to reach. So I set all my levels, the trim controls on the interface. Record 24-bit, gives you a better resolution, increases the amount of dynamic range over 16-bit. Record multiple takes. It's real easy to do multiple takes. And you can take parts of one take and put it into another take. I've taken syllables from a word, from a okay take, to fix something that was bad in another take. Because we can do it visually. We can do it visually. Learn some visual editing techniques. Look at those waveforms when you're looking at it on the DAW screen. You'll be able to find out what a ch sounds like, what a w sounds like, and what a sounds like. My first recording job was a very brilliant surgeon from a foreign country, won't mention any names, but India comes to mind. And this gentleman was absolutely brilliant. He was a heart surgeon in Chicago. But he was very nervous presenting, and he had a tick when he talked. And I recorded a 5-minute speech of this gentleman talking about the new heart wing for some hospital project. And thank goodness it wasn't a video recording, it was strictly an audio recording. And I had to take all of those out using a razor blade and reel-to-reel tape at 15 IPS. And an at 15 IPS is about this big. Wow. And of course I took them all out. It took me several days to do it. And of course we had to splice them all together. So I have this little playback tape of this. Today we can do that really easy in the digital domain. We make lots of noises when we talk. Yes, we don't think about those noises when we talk. I have sinus issues. When I talk, I hydrate myself as much as I can. And I use room temperature or warm water, not ice cold water. Ice cold water will make your throat close up a little bit. So I use warm or room temperature water, and I keep myself hydrated. My lips get dry real easy, and your lips get dry, and you'll get lip smacks, and you'll get all these little sounds. The nice thing is you can go and you can find them, you can take them out, little ticks and things. You can take those out because you can expand the waveforms, you can find them and take them away. It's much easier now in the digital world. I'll often record a piece, and I'll do it in segments, and then put big pauses between them and take the pauses out to make the final track flow. In the analog days, it was like one take. Okay, we're rolling. We're going to do the whole 3-minute read in one shot. Record multiple takes, and you can piece them together. It's called comping in the music world. Let's talk about equalization. Equalization. This is a software equalizer plug-in from a software package I use, and equalization can help clean things up a little bit. Especially if you're doing the full produced project. I'm doing a podcast and I want to do a little voice over music. Right? We call that a donut spot in the broadcast world. So the music comes in, it builds up, and then the music fades down, and the voice comes in and says the little piece, and the music fades up at the end. What people will traditionally do is just fade the music down a little bit, let the voice ride, and then bring the music back up. What we really want to do is we want to cut holes in the music. Let the voice fill those holes. So what I'll do is I'll use equalization, and I will take, in the music, I will take out fundamental vocal frequencies, presence range, maybe where I'm predominant in the low mids. I'll carve those spots out in the music track using the equalization tools on my audio software. So now the voice fits in those holes. And it makes it sound better. It makes the voice stand out better. It doesn't just lower the music level. And it's really a cool way to do it. One of the things you have to do if you equalize, you always want to take stuff away. Take the nasties away. Don't bring up the things that aren't nasty. A lot of people will start to boost things in the equalizer. I use it more as a carving tool. It's like carving out things. Here's a little trick. I use this in the live sound world, but you can also use it in the studio as well. So you're listening to this voice track and you say, just something sounds a little funny somewhere in the frequency response. So what I do is I tighten up the Q, which is the width of the curve. So you've got this curve to make it a point. Then I crank the gain up really high. And while I'm playing back the track, I listen to it and I use the frequency control and I sweep it through the entire range of frequencies. And all of a sudden I'm going to find one point where it sounds really nasty. And I cut at that point, and that cleans it up. So I sweep, I make it very narrow, very high peak. I sweep that peak through, carefully listening, and when I hear the point where it sounds really nasty, that's when I cut it away. And it's a real quick and easy way to help clean up some of the dialogue tracks. Because there might be something in the voice that just sounds a little drony, and you want to make that go away.
Wow, Steve, I think we should take some audio engineering classes. Perhaps we'll have you come back.
I would like to. I'm having a great time here tonight.
Yeah.
Everybody know what a compressor is, right? I have one at the gas station. I fill my tires to 30. No, wrong kind of compressor. A compressor is really interesting because we want to, in some cases, minimize dynamic range. We all know what dynamic range is, right? Dynamic range is quiet to loud. And dynamic range can be a really good thing. It was a dark and stormy night. But then the monster came from somewhere else. Right? And the audio engineer just gave me the worst look in the world because I just probably peaked that level. Now, a compressor would tame that. It would tame that dynamic range. And what a compressor can do is all of a sudden make a vocal track hotter, make a vocal track a little bit louder, even though it didn't touch the level whatsoever. I compress most of the vocals that I do ever so slightly. I compress a little bit, especially if I'm dealing with multiple voices. I've got to blend characters together. Compression can help make the vocals work with the vocals. There's a little bit about compressors. Attack is how quick the compressor reacts. Release is how long the compressor stays in its compressed mode for a certain amount of time. The threshold is the point at where the gain reduction takes place. It's when the signal hits this level. For every dB the signal goes above that threshold level, the compressor is going to reduce it a little bit based on the ratio. So that's the relationship between the signal level and the output level. So a 2-to-1 ratio says if the signal goes up twice, the compressor is going to reduce it once. So it's going to help tame that vocal. The nice thing is a lot of the software out there has presets built in. They'll give you a really good starting point. So you don't necessarily have to be an engineer. This is a knee. But a knee in a compressor is where the compression curve, it's that little spot where the compression starts to take place. And a hard knee means the gain reduction is going to be applied immediately when the threshold's reached. A soft knee, this is a soft knee because I smashed it. A soft knee is the compression is going to be applied gradually, and it's going to give it a little bit smoother sound when that threshold's released. Sidechain is I can actually control my compressor from another signal, which I don't really do in the voice work, but I do it in the music side. And a limiter is a compressor that says I'm never going to let sound go above a certain threshold level. Limiters are often used in the broadcast world to keep peaks from overloading the transmission signal. So when I did that, it was a dark and quiet night and got really loud, the limiter would have caught that really loud peak and not overloaded it. The nice thing is there's all kinds of little presets, but here's some guidelines for vocal compression. So here's some guidelines for vocal compression. So I've sat here and I've talked about all this technique and stuff. Let's take some questions and let's do some.
Okay, great.
Let you drive it.
All right. We can absolutely take some questions from our live audience and also our global audience.
Hi, global audience.
Say hi.
This is a knee.
This is a knee. Do we have any questions from our live audience? I know that. Yeah.
Step up to the mic.
Yes.
What do you? Oh, I have stuff up here.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the best mobile sound booth can be if there's nothing available?
The best mobile sound booth can be.
If there's nothing available.
Nothing available. Your car. Absolutely, your car.
Ding, ding, ding.
Absolutely, your car. Car manufacturers, as I said earlier, car manufacturers go to great expense to make the interior of that Lexus the quietest thing you've ever heard. It's a great place to record. More questions from the audience. I'm game for questions. I've been talking. It's your turn now. You got to step up to the mic.
You were talking about going into the red when recording, and just don't do it in the digital world.
In the digital world, yes.
After you've recorded, I usually normalize an audition.
Okay.
I've been told to normalize to -3. Is that the same thing as hitting in the red when you're recording?
Well, normalization is a process. It's going to process the audio, and it's going to, I can't define it, but basically it's going to bring up quiet spots and reduce loud spots. And -3 is a good number to use. It smooths out some dynamic range is what normalization does.
Okay.
Next question. From the audience. Come on, there's got to be lots of questions out there.
All right, we do.
Yep, we have all these great people coming up asking questions. There's hundreds of people in the studio audience.
In the meantime, I have a question from the global audience that wants to know what Jerry made tonight for food.
Yes. Jerry made some great stuff.
So Jerry's food selection tonight was it was a summer salad fest. And we had all different types of salads.
I like salads.
That's right.
I had a question.
Okay.
Oh.
No, come up to the mic.
I'll grow.
So in the meantime, Vanita, if you
Yeah.
had a question, you can come up to the mic.
That's it.
Okay.
You're good. You're perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Tina Wilson.
Tina Wilson.
Oh, right there? Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering, I have a, and I've had this for about 10 years, I have an Electro Voice 127. And is that considered a condenser mic, or what type of mic is that?
You know, I don't know. But what I'll do is we'll take a second when we're doing something else and someone's talking, I'll fire up my web browser.
Okay.
Okay, I was just curious because one of the reasons why I got it, a friend of mine helped me get it. I mean, I like it. It's a really good mic, but it, if I run into it by mistake or knock it over by mistake, it's pretty sturdy.
It's pretty straight. I'm going to guess that because Electro Voice was really known for their broadcast dynamic microphones, it's probably a dynamic mic. It doesn't need phantom power, correct? You don't have to have P48 pushed on your interface, do you know?
I don't think so.
I'm going to guess, since it was an Electro Voice microphone, it's probably a dynamic, because that's what their claim to fame was. All their broadcast mics were dynamics.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, Electro Voice made a microphone that was 8 feet long. If you ever watch any of the old TV presidential interviews with President Kennedy, you'll see this guy with this giant microphone pointing it at news guys in the audience. It was the world's longest shotgun microphone back in the 60s.
Now, I think it's a side address, though.
Yes, they did make some side address products.
Right.
But it's probably a dynamic, because Electro Voice was really known for their dynamic microphones.
Okay, and my other quick question is, what is the best microphone to use if you are recording off of your iPhone?
Well, that's a good question.
Good question.
There's some, the issue with the iPhone is it has a special 4-pin connector, the little TRS. So you need, and I think there's a couple microphones that will actually plug into the bottom connector on an iPhone, whether it's the 37-pin or like these iPhones have the new Lightning connector. There are some condenser mics out there. The biggest issue with a condenser microphone that doesn't have a battery built into it is the iPhone doesn't supply enough power to power the electronics in the microphone.
That makes sense.
Our 2020 USB will work on an iPad, but the iPhone doesn't have enough power to power the microphone. The mic, the actual little microphone in the iPhone isn't a bad microphone. I don't know if I would use it for voice work or not.
Right.
But it's, I've recorded some sound effects. I capture sound effects when I'm out places. And I've recorded some pretty interesting sound effects with an iPhone.
I just wondered.
We make some consumer products in Japan that plug into an iPhone, and I've listened to some of them, and they're okay, but they're not a studio quality microphone. But they are, there's a lot of people using iPhones for video cameras now and stuff. So it's, but yeah, I don't really know a good iPhone mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question from the global audience regarding the expensive shotgun mic that you brought, and how can it be so much better than the 875? You have such fans out there, the 875. So how can it be that much better? I mean, I think the one that you said was about $1,000.
The BP4073 is about $995. I think is the retail price on it. What happens is the price goes up. Okay, there's a couple things that happen. One, the mechanical construction of the microphone is more precision. So the more expensive microphones, there's more hand-built stuff to it versus the 875R is probably built on an assembly line in a factory. The second thing is the capsules are quieter. For film dialogue, the dialogue recordist wants the absolute microphones, condenser microphones with electronics in them. The electronics makes noise. It's called self-noise. And the goal of the microphone manufacturer is to get the self-noise down to 0. which is almost impossible. The 5040, the self noise is -5. That's the lowest we've ever seen self noise.
Wow.
As the microphones go up higher in price, the electronics gets quieter. There's more discrete electronics in them, and that's the big difference. Is it's just better electronics. Capsules are a little bit more accurate. The off-axis response might be a little bit more accurate, and that's mainly the differences. The other thing is the 4073 uses the single slot ports, which are all machine ports on the side of the microphone. The 875R uses a long single port with an interference tube inside. So it's more machine based versus stamp metal or whatever the technique. I don't know the manufacturing techniques, so I'm not a manufacturing guy. But the 875R, for all you folks out there that are shotgun mic users, it is a great microphone for voiceover work.
Yes.
I should have brought one with me.
It's the killer of the other.
Yeah, and I'm going to.
Actually, George Woodham really mentioned that too. He mentioned how nice it was.
It is a nice
how much
sounding.
he liked it.
I use it for boom pole work, and I'm going to have to try it for voice work just to see. And then what I'll do is I'll do a little blog post. And
well, I have a feeling after this broadcast, we might have a
lot
lot
of people looking at the
875. So,
and it's quite affordable. I mean, it's a very affordable microphone. It's also small and easy to carry. I don't know the price off the top of my head. I can look it up.
I do have one other question from Lee Penny. Hi, Lee Penny. Lee Penny would like to know what is comparable. Wait, I just lost the question. Where are you, Lee? What is comparable to a TLM 103?
What is comparable to a TLM 103?
Yeah, what do you guys offer?
You know, that's without actually listening to the TLM 103. I'm going to probably say, I'm going on a limb here, probably the 4050. I'd have to actually look at the specs and compare them. TLM 103 is made by one of those German precision microphone guys.
Sure, yeah.
It's a good microphone. I'd probably say, you know, it's the flavors. Do you want sauerkraut or do you want sushi? No, we're Japanese, they're German.
There we go.
I mean, I'd probably say 4050 off the top of my head. Without looking at the specs, I wouldn't know, but I could find out.
Okay, great.
I could find out.
Anybody? Any other questions?
I've got a question.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if when you're editing and recording in an editing software program, is it okay to turn off the phantom power while you're in the editing software program, or do you actually need to?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Phantom power won't bother the editing software. And the only thing you don't ever want to do is in the midst of recording, or if you've got headphones on, hit that button because it'll make a big loud pop in the headphones.
Okay, great, thanks.
But you can leave phantom power. Phantom power stays on all the time in the studio. Just if you are going to unplug your mic to store it away, just turn the levels down on your input, just so you don't make a noise is all it does.
Great.
Thank you.
Steve, when was the AT2020 USB first introduced?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
But the Plus just came out, right?
The USB. The 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, so what do you see on the horizon for USBs?
Well, what happens is we just get better converters. We get better electronics. You know, it's interesting. The engineering team in Japan is amazing. They are constantly they're constantly creating stuff, and they will send over to us to evaluate some of the most incredibly bizarre looking microphones you've ever seen. And they've you know, so let's do a 2-inch diameter capsule microphone, see what happens. You know, they're always trying stuff. We've got some of the most creative engineers in the world in our headquarters in Japan. The technology, we just keep improving the electronics. We keep trying to lower the cost as any good manufacturer. We just introduced a microphone at a trade show called Infocom. It's totally off the subject of voiceover, called the Dante microphone that plugs into a Cat5 cable into a computer network and can talk over a computer network to other Dante-enabled equipment. That is absolutely cutting edge.
Yeah.
And in the broadcast world, in the installed sound world, the wave of the future is this digital networking over Cat5 cable. And it's amazing technology. In the studio microphone world, the 5040 is a great example. Traditionally, you had a circular diaphragm, and manufacturers would try and make it bigger because the bigger the diaphragm, the better the low frequency, the lower the noise can be, and so forth. But the smaller the diaphragm, the more articulation you can get, the better transient response you can get, and there's some other things. So there's trade-offs between big diaphragms and small diaphragms. So in that 5040, we put 4 small rectangular diaphragms in a single capsule or a single assembly, and they work together as one. So they give you the advantage of a large diaphragm and the advantage of a small diaphragm microphone, which is why it sounds so good on voice. It gives you all that richness of the low end, but yet it gives you all that articulation of the high end. And that's revolutionary microphone technology. Nobody's ever done that. And we do all kinds of interesting things. And there's some things that Japanese engineers are working on that are, I can't really say. But we're always looking at things. As Audio-Technica's motto is always listening. And we're listening. I'm going to take back from this the 875R as a voice microphone. Because I'm listening. Absolutely listening as well. And we're getting this popularity is really kind of neat. So we're always open to suggestions. Microphones are getting smaller. We make a little tiny lavalier microphone that's half the size of the one that I'm wearing. We make a little head-worn microphone for pastors and presenters that's like a grain of rice on the end of a little tiny wire. And it's that kind of technology that we're doing. The other thing that's really cool, and this is why I'm really proud of with a Japanese company, the Germans are known for precision. The Japanese are known for consistency. Think about it. A Toyota, it's always the same. It's always the same. So you can take a 40 series microphone, you can take 2 off the shelf and they're matched. And you don't have to have serial numbers and sequence and all that kind of stuff. Because Japanese are known for their consistency. They're known for their quality. So that's really kind of the cool thing about working for a Japanese company. So
wow,
cool.
I have a couple more questions from the global audience. Let's see. Question from the masses: what mic pre would you recommend for your mics, or do you not really have a recommendation?
Well, I don't really have a recommendation. There's a lot of good mic pre's out there. There's a lot of good mic pre's out there. I mean, it depends on your budget. Okay. There are some really nice boutique mic pre's out there. We've got, I think they're GMLs in the listening room at Audio-Technica. There's, Focusrite makes mic pre's. There's some really good affordable mic pre's. The cool thing is modern mic pre's and modern mics are going to work together. Vintage mics, you may have some issues working with a modern mic pre.
Good point.
That's a hard question. It's mic pre's are kind of like paint chips. There's all different kinds out there.
Okay, well, probably an even harder question comes from, I believe, let's see, Mike Lynch. Hi, Mike Lynch. He would like to know if you have a favorite mic.
Yeah, I do have a favorite mic.
And will you tell us?
My favorite mic right now is the 5040.
Oh.
It's our the 4-element condenser. In fact, I will. Let's see. I'll go all the way back to the beginning. Don't hit the thing yet. Here, let me go all the way back to the beginning of this, and this is my favorite microphone right there. That's my favorite microphone. Oh, wait, one more. There we go. That's my favorite microphone. There we go. I'm watching my little screen here. I'm off by one on my little screen. The 5040 is just an amazing sounding microphone. It's so quiet. It sounds so luscious on a voice. And it's one of the few voice microphones I've ever worked where I can work without a pop filter. And that headphone commercial that you heard, that was voiced on a 5040. And it's our first foray into the boutique microphone world. Audio-Technica has always been known for the affordability, right? The $99 site address studio microphone that sounds phenomenal. 2020 sounds great. I've used 2020s all the time.
They do.
But I have to admit, since I got my 5040, just because the shock mount looks really cool, that's... And if you watch the Tonight Show, the Sidekick uses a 5040, and the table mic on the desk is a 4050 limited edition anniversary piece that we did. It's because he wanted the silver one. So yes, thank you Tonight Show for using our microphones.
All right. Well, the chat room would like us to give one away.
Everybody would like
give
us
one
to
away.
give
Give one away. So.
Well, how do you want to do the giveaway?
Well, speaking of the giveaway, are we gonna do a mic shootout?
Yes,
Are we prepared for that, or should we do the giveaway first and then we'll do a little break while we can set up?
Let me jump out of the PowerPoint and make sure that I'm still getting. Still getting audio on my end, and you should be getting signal from my record system so people can hear the microphones. Now, what's happening right now is I think all 4 of them are feeding the system. So what I'm going to do is mute the microphones, and now the only one that's feeding you from me should be the 5040. So you're hearing audio, that's the mic you're hearing it from.
Okay, great. So if we're ready,
we've got some copy. Victim, we have some copy.
Some copy that we've kind of circulated throughout the room, and we've got everybody that entered into the room tonight got a ticket. So we are going to pick out a couple of different lucky people to do the mic shootout.
All right, these are for doing the mic shootout, or
this
for
is
doing
for the mic. This is for the mic
prizes.
shootout.
We'll throw them
we'll throw them back in for the prizes.
Okay. So the first person to come up and talk.
The first lucky winner is.
First lucky talker. And by the way, those little things sitting over by the lampshade and over by the table, those are speakers. I'm a talker. We are all talkers. Hey, you're going to be speaking? Yes, I'm going to be talking tonight. I'm not a speaker. That's the sound system. Okay. Here we go. I won't read all the numbers. I'll just read the last 2. I'll read the last 3. 481. Who's got 481? Me. You want to come up and talk? Yeah.
There's a piece of copy,
up here,
so you don't have to bring the copy. We got a piece of copy up there. We're going to have you test out. Which one is the first one being tested?
First one's the 5040.
Okay.
I'm going to actually track her.
I'm
going to track her voice on all 4 microphones, but the only one that's going to air right now is the 5040.
Okay, great. So just be careful when you come through here.
I feel like I'm coming in.
Please. You're going to come right back here, and she's going to be.
We need a chair back there. Oh, we have a little step stool.
I've got a. Oh yeah, we'll get a stool.
Yeah.
So she's going to be talking into the.
And you'll want to sit chair height. Stool height might be too high.
Wow, how did I forget not getting a chair back there? Wow.
Yeah, stool height might be too high for this.
Well.
If not, we'll grab a regular chair.
I got a regular chair back in
how you feel.
In the office, Jerry.
There's one right here.
Oh yeah, we could.
Yeah, you want to get lower. Yeah, you definitely need to be lower.
Okay, now we need to get.
Yep. This is the technical difficulties of
here
all this technology here going live, and
this is the joys of live broadcasting. Yeah. Thank you, Pamela, for being the brave first.
Okay, go ahead and read the copy. That's the best thing to do.
Okay. Audio-Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide.
Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to track this, okay, and it'll be on all 4 mics. The only mic that's going to go to air is going to be the 5040, just so you don't get the phasing for them all. And then we'll see if we might be able to play them all back through the speakers if we're lucky here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record on my software, which no one can see on the screen. Okay, I'm going to try something here. Let me escape out of this.
Ted says too far from the mic. Is that possible?
This, and it should. Let me mirror my display.
It's low.
Okay. Meow. That's the cat.
Yeah, we all hear my cat.
That's not me.
That's one of those sounds. Mirror displays, and we'll close that. And now you guys will see the recording software up on the screen as well. I want to thank PreSonus Audio for this recording system here. And I'll go all the way back. And I'm going to hit the record button, and you're live.
Audio-Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. the gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO Peeps. VO Peeps and Audio Technica. We're listening.
Good. Now what I want you to do is do the same read, but kind of center yourself. I'm going to get up. I'm getting up and moving here. I'm going to move these. So you're going to hear some rumbling while I move them a little bit. So you can get, this way you're going to get into all four of them at once. This is kind of a weird, I feel like I'm doing a press conference here for the president. Yes, and if you're elected, okay.
That's a good shot. If you
Got a photo, all right.
It's a good
So
camera
now-
shot right now.
It's a Facebook
Yeah.
cover image waiting to happen.
Okay, if I hold the copy, does that make it
Right.
better?
Yes, I can move my hands.
Okay, yes, you can move your hands. All right, so I'm going to hit the record button. I'm going to hold the copy. All right, here we go.
But then we
Holding
can't
the
see your
copy.
face.
And take two.
There we go.
Audio Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO Peeps. VO Peeps and Audio Technica. We're listening.
Good. Okay, now what I did is I recorded this on all four microphones at the same time.
That is so weird.
And if we're lucky, can we play this back through the speakers?
Oh,
Do you have an audio output from your computer?
No, it's coming back through the purple cable.
Yes, we do then.
Okay, so let's take these out of record so it doesn't feed back. And I've got them all muted, except the 5040. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play back the second take, and let's see if this works. So here we go. We'll pick it up here. I'm going to hit play. And it should be playing back. Help me turn the master up.
High performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide.
That's my head.
Sounds a lot like VO Peeps. VO Peeps and Audio Technica. We're listening.
Okay, so that's coming through our little speakers now. And I'll go back and I'll play it again. And then what I'm going to switch the microphones so you can hear the different ones.
Audio Technica's innovative products, quality, and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO.
Now that's the ribbon microphone, and you notice the brightness went away, the articulation went away because it's a little bit lower and richer. So now I'm going to play it back again. And we're playing it back, by the way, for the world listening audience on just some computer speakers in the room. We might be able to make this track available as an audio download.
That would be great.
So I'll just give you these. So this is the 5040. This is the one that sounds like whole milk.
Audio Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO Peeps. VO Peeps and Audio Technica. We're listening.
Okay, and then the last one I'll play it back on. This is the 2020. This is the $99 microphone. Okay.
Audio Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO Peeps.
Okay, so notice there's a lot more articulation because the 2020 has got a bigger presence peak than the 4050, which is a little bit smoother in the presence peak. And now what I'll do is I'll go back, so if you've got speakers on, and I'll play it back on the 5040.
Audio Technica's innovative products are high quality and high performance. The gold standard of audio excellence worldwide. Sounds a lot like VO Peeps. VO Peeps and Audio Technica. We're listening.
So you can hear, even on these little speakers, you can hear the subtle differences from the different microphones. So what I recommend to a voice artist to do is to go someplace where you can audition mics. Go to a studio that's got a nice mic locker and pick a simple piece of copy. Oh, nearing recording limit.
Oh.
Wow.
So that means we just stop and start the stream again. Wow, we're getting close to our 3 hours. Yeah, we can keep going.
That was pretty nice.
Yeah.
This is how exciting this is.
I know, they're
Yeah.
giving us a warning that we're nearing our limit.
Use the same little piece of copy. Find something that you're comfortable with reading. This actually, we have a blurb, a paragraph out of one of our catalogs that we've used every time we talk mics out. We use the same piece of copy, so it's always the consistency again when we're doing the testing. So you probably couldn't tell from where you were sitting.
Not as much, a little bit when it played back, but you
Uh-huh.
could definitely tell as it went through. I do have is the ribbon,
Yeah.
is that the second one here?
The ribbon one is the second silver one in.
What is, kind of from a cost differential from, say, a ribbon to a condenser?
Well, it depends on the condenser. $99 at the
Yeah.
front end, $1,000, $1,500 for the ribbon, and $3,000 for the one on the end. Just
Okay.
that's a smattering of the offerings. We have a couple more over here as well.
Sweet.
Who else wants to try?
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Brian.
very
Yeah,
much.
let's pick another.
Watch the purple wire.
I love it. We're gonna pick another lucky winner.
Who wants to try?
Another lucky winner.
And I'm not coaching. I'm just.
Yeah, this is just testing the mics.
Okay.
Coaching is the next meetup.
What was
yeah.
the last number I picked? What was the last number I picked?
481.
Are you ready? 480.
Tina? No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's okay.
That's that funny. 41. Okay, here we go. There's someone bent in here. I'll pick the bent one.
Well,
Okay, here we go.
I know.
476. Okay.
all right.
A male voice.
All right. And so, which one will Craig be?
Well, we'll have them do the center,
Oh, the
and I'll
same
hold
thing?
the copy up again.
Okay.
And then we'll stream. The stream's going to be the 45th or the 50/40 is the stream.
Okay.
Is the one we're going to stream out. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll hit record, and I'll hold the. You want me to hold the copy? You want to, yeah. You got to be able to go across all four because the way we got it set up. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. And whoops, we're not rolling because I didn't engage anything in record. Minor detail from the engineering standpoint. Always
Minor
remember.
details.
Always remember
To hit record.
engage the track to record before you hit the record button.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Name that. Before we do it, just whatever. SS
SS1.
1.
What's that software?
That's our broadcasting software. Oh, that software. What's your software?
Oh,
that you
software I'm using is Studio One.